Thank you for listening to Depictions Media Radio.
On the rights of Indigenous peoples. I will be in the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. I will be revitalizing and evolving the Assembly of First Nations organization to reflect the people that it serves by making the AFN a more responsive organization that reflects regions and nations. I am going to make the AFN a safe, healthy, and welcoming space for women and two-spirited LGBTQIA plus peoples and all of our citizens. The next step for me is to review my goals as set out in my platform document with chiefs, other national leaders, and regional chiefs. Much further ahead, there will be a planning process, more detailed work plans developed by the National Chief's Office, my staff. Then the work plan documents become a living document that we will follow for the next 3 years. So in conclusion, I am setting a strategic direction toward evolutionary and positive change. And I want to create a unified effort on long-standing issues that have faced First Nations. Miigwech Ninanaskamun for joining today. Ninanaskamun means I am thankful, I am grateful, I thank you. And Gasakitin means I love you.
Okay, thank you so much, National Chief. So we'll go to questions now, as Jenna said. The first person who I have in the queue here is Janet Silver from iPolitics. Go ahead, Janet.
Thank you, and thank you, Chief, for taking our questions today. My question is, earlier this week, I spoke to Senator Patrick Brazeau. He put out a report last week, and one of the things he found in his report, or one of the things he's advocating in terms of reconciliation, is that there cannot be true reconciliation unless there's reparation. And I just wanted to get your thoughts on that. Do you agree, especially given, as you mentioned earlier, residential schools, that reparation has to be part of that process? Thank you.
Thank you for your question. And yes, reparations are an essential part of the journey on reconciliation. We have seen the settling of a national class action where survivors were compensated, but that's only one piece of reparations. Our communities have had long-standing negative impacts as a result of colonization, particularly residential schools. And we need those reparations to happen not only with individuals, but communities and nations. And we need a national process for healing for our people, for our intergenerational survivors, for our survivors, but we also need a space for all Canadians to heal together.
Thank you so much, Janet. Rhiannon Johnson, CBC Indigenous.
Hi there. RoseAnne, congratulations on your victory. I'd like to ask you about the internal AFN investigation into bullying and harassment allegations against you. The investigative independent report found 10 potential complainants from male and female AFN staff, which the independent investigator found credible. The only reason a formal complaint wasn't filed was because the independent investigator found the complainants feared reprisal from you. How do you respond to these accusations, and do you intend to implement a whistleblower policy, which is one of the main recommendations of the report? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. I can't comment on a confidential report. I am bound by confidentiality, but I know that this was brought forward, and it has certainly been brought forward for quite some time in an effort to, I believe, slow down the progress we need to make in terms of having a woman national chief. And I certainly want to let people know that my goal is to remain positive and respectful. And I won't, go
Reporter.
into.
Joined the meeting.
But I remain positive, and I want to share a little bit about my history with you. You know, Rhiannon, that when these kinds of things come forward, there's often a pattern and that you can turn to. And we saw this with the report for the governor, the former governor general, that there was a history. So I want to tell you that in the 31 years that I've been involved in politics, I have never had a single complaint filed against me, not even when I was a chief, nor in any role that I previously held. However, I have been the victim of workplace harassment, and I know what that feels like. And so I'm committed to creating safe and healthy working spaces for everyone. For too long, organizations like AFN have allowed this kind of behavior to continue, and we need to change that. And I'm committed to bringing that change. We have to ensure that our organizations modernize, that we leave behind the days of bullying and harassment that have negatively impacted all those voices that have been silent. We need to bring back unity and respect. And I think that it's important to say that there were no formal complaints made. And I was never interviewed for this report. And the process undertaken didn't follow the guidelines as outlined in the AFN Code of Conduct. Finally, $250,000 was spent on investigations. And they were all initiated without zero written complaints, none. Money was spent on this, and I have always said it has been very much difficult for me, and I have felt targeted, and I have felt that this happened because of reprisal. Because in December, I stood up for a resolution calling for an independent review on harassment and bullying of women and two-spirited LGBTQIA plus peoples. And that was the beginning of the journey for me. That's when the reprisal started immediately. Within a minute, I received an email from a chief, a harassment email harassing me right out of the gate. And I knew that because I spoke out, that there would be retaliation. But you know what? I kept walking forward, Rhiannon. I kept walking forward because I believe in the truth. And I held the truth in my heart. And I walked forward in a good way with dignity and respect. And I continued to extend the healing hand to everyone at the AFN. And you'll see that that was not reciprocated. And so I want to just say that, I want everyone to feel safe. That's what I want. And that's why I will always respect and welcome these kinds of investigations, because I want everyone to feel safe, protected, and respected in the workplace. And yes, in many ways, I felt like a whistleblower, when I brought those issues forward. And so I absolutely support a whistleblower policy at the AFN. And so I want everyone else also to know that there are formal processes that help us to resolve these kinds of issues, and that these processes will always respect the rights of those who have felt disrespected or hurt. And but considering the timing and the situation surrounding, the election, I was always concerned about the motivation of the allegations and how those confidential reports were continually leaked. And so I was caught by surprise. But I want to just say that I will stand up for everyone and anyone who is compelled to share their truth, and will always ensure that the process is fair and respected. I'm 100% committed to creating a safe, healthy working environment. And that is part of the change that I'm going to bring to the AFN. That's a part of the change that begins today. Miigwech for your question.
Thank you so much, National Chief. Okay, next we have Olivia Stefanovich, CBC News.
Good morning, National Chief Archibald. Congratulations on your victory. I would like to follow up on your answer there. To clarify, are you denying these allegations of bullying and harassment against you by these 10 AFN staffers who are both male and female? And you say you support a whistleblower policy. How soon could we see that implemented? And if I may, you mentioned that you'd like to see more financial transparency from the AFN. Will you commit to a financial audit now that you are National Chief?
Thank you for that. And again, it's a confidential report, so I can't comment on it. I can't comment on anything that is in the report or any questions around the report. It's not proper. I have fiduciary obligations as a National Chief on confidentiality, and I can't break them. But I do want to say that, again, when these matters come forward, I'm going to respect the process and make sure that there is a fair process for everyone. And we have to take these allegations seriously within our communities and our organizations. And so I think that in the past, having myself been subject to harassment and bullying, I know how difficult how hard it is. And so I just want to say that I have always treated people with dignity and respect. And I've always sought to bring those values to the culture of the organizations that I have been trusted to lead. And so I ran for National Chief to bring better, more inclusive governance to the AFN, one that puts an emphasis on creating safe and healthy workplaces for all people. I want people to feel safe, protected, and respected no matter what. Whether you're an employee, a citizen, an ally, everyone deserves to be treated fairly and equitably. Thank you for your question, Olivia.
Thank you, National Chief. Next, sorry if I mispronounced this, forgive me, Zhaoli Li, City News, Ottawa.
You pronounced it perfectly, no worries.
Oh, good.
Thank you for taking my question, and congratulations to Chief Archibald. I actually just want to follow up on the second half of my colleague's question about that call for an independent financial review. You asked for this earlier this year. Is that something you plan to implement in your time in office?
That was, again, something that was released by somebody. That was a confidential resolution from the chiefs in Ontario. And so, again, because I'm the former regional chief, I can't speak to that confidential resolution. It would go against my oath of office. And I still carry that forward. And so what I will say is that I am committed to transparency and accountability. I have, in my time in leadership, never incurred a deficit in my career ever. And I have run organizations with full transparency so that people can see what the organization is spending money on. And I will be reaching out to Regional Chief Glenn Hare to have a discussion about this confidential resolution and finding a path forward to make sure that the finances of the AFN are run with integrity, that the chiefs are aware of where the money is being spent, particularly on contracts. And I will actually ensure that we create the proper mechanisms to have a healthy organization financially. And I've been told many times that this organization is very opaque. And as a regional chief, I did everything I could to create transparency, asking for proper minutes, asking for proper financial reports. And I'll continue to do that as a national chief. Thank you for your question.
Okay, thank you so much, Zhaoli. Tom Fenario, APTN News Montreal, please. Tom, are you there? Okay, I don't hear Tom anywhere. So Crystal of Global News, please. Crystal, are you there? Okay, don't hear Crystal. Sherry, Noreen, wind speaker. Oh,
I'm here.
sorry, is that Tom? Is that Tom there?
Sorry about that.
That's okay, Tom. Go ahead.
Congratulations, National Chief, on your election. And I work specifically, my beat is First Nations in Quebec. You were talking about consensus building. And I was just wondering, what does consensus building mean for First Nations in Quebec? Thank you.
In Quebec, my mover was Chief Lance Heyman from Quebec. And I had many conversations with him about his region. I have an excellent working relationship with Regional Chief Ghislain Picard. As fellow executive members, we stood shoulder to shoulder on many issues. We were allies to one another. And that positive relationship will be the basis of my work with all regions, including Quebec. I am actually in my transition team. I have hired I don't speak French. Je ne parle français. I probably am not even saying that right. But I have hired a fluent French speaker to help me navigate the issues in Quebec and to make sure that their voices are amplified and that their issues are brought forward and that I am supporting them and standing with them on the national stage to ensure that their rights and title and inherent and treaty rights are respected. Miigwech for the question.
Thank you so much, Tom and National Chief. Sherry, sorry for cutting you off there a moment ago. This is Sherry Noreen, wind speaker.
No problem. Congratulations, National Chief Archibald. My question to you is, you won yesterday with the support of less than 1/3 of the chiefs. Does that concern you? And how do you build bridges with that?
No, first of all, it doesn't concern me. With elections and the way the structure is, Reg Belrose conceded. And so how we would normally do it in a traditional selection process, which is how I was selected as regional chief, is all of those chiefs would then come and stand behind me physically in our election process in Ontario. And so I envisioned all of those chiefs standing behind me. And I feel that. I received hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of text messages from right across this country, chiefs from every region, male, female, two-spirited. So I feel embraced, I feel loved, I feel supported. And Sherry, you know that we've had a conversation about my heart-centered approach to leadership. And with this love and this deep and abiding love and care that I have for everyone, I know that we're going to move forward in a good way. I hope I've answered your questions, Sherry. I look forward to talking to you again at some point. Miigwech.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Crystal Oak from Global News, are you there? Crystal? Okay, I don't hear Crystal or see Crystal, so I'll go to Teresa Wright from Canadian Press.
Thank you very much for taking my question and congratulations on your election, National Chief. I wonder if you can talk to me about whether you, just based on some of the comments you made earlier, whether you encountered any concerns or misogynistic attacks during the campaign or in the lead up to it. And also if you could share why you think it has taken this long for a woman to be elected National Chief of the Assembly of First Nations.
Thank you for the question. No, I did not have any misogynistic experiences at all in this election. I had them before the election, but not during. So I'm really grateful for that. And I've always said that I look at the chiefs in my fellow leaders as my brothers. I grew up with 6 brothers. And so I think of them the same way I think about my brothers. You know, I love my brothers. My brothers are my protectors. And that's how I see all male leadership across Canada. I see us as a family. And sometimes in families, you don't always get along, but the basis of a family is love. And I have that for everyone across this country. The question you have about why it took so long, the name of this corporation is called the National Indian Brotherhood, which has a long historical link. And it's things like that that create a feeling that there isn't a place for women. It's small things like that that matter. It's language. It's what we say that matters. And everyone can see, you know, just look at these questions earlier, these negative questions. You can see how difficult it is for a woman to enter into a space like this with strength and dignity and love. And that has been the challenge for women, is that they have thought about this. There are amazing women out there, so many that I met on my journey, amazing, strong, powerful women who don't step up because they see what happens to women like Jody Wilson-Raybould, what has happened to me. They are witness to this. Even federally, we think about Catherine McKenna. You know, these attacks on women don't create safe spaces for women, but it's changing. And I was elected by a majority of male chiefs. That's important. It's important that 80% of the chiefs across Canada are men, and they elected me. And that to me speaks to the change that is happening, that our brothers understand the importance of creating space. And I want to thank Alvin Fiddler, who dropped out early. And he mentioned his daughters and his wife and all of us. I'm getting emotional right now thinking about how we all felt in that moment. And that's what we need. We need men to make room for us, and they have. Miigwech.
Okay, thank you so much. Just mindful of the National Chief's time. Our last question, because we'll have to wrap up shortly, is Kevin Gallagher, CTV National News.
Good morning. Congratulations, National Chief. Thank you for taking our questions. I want to ask, when do you anticipate, you've already laid out a bit of your 100-day plan, let's say, when you anticipate first meeting with federal ministers, the Prime Minister, and how do you think you'll set the basis for your relationship moving forward with the federal government? How will it, let's say, contrast or differ to the relationship that Perry Bellegarde had with the federal government?
Thank you, Kevin. The meetings are, I believe, being discussed right now. So we're in the process of setting up meetings. My relationship with governments, no matter who they are, has always been nonpartisan. I look at the person who is in that position and I see them as a human being. And I know many people watched as I created a positive relationship between a conservative government and First Nations in Ontario. And that comes from a place of mutual respect and caring about the human being that is the Prime Minister, the human being that is the Premier. And when you base your relationships in that kind of respect, only good things will happen. At the same time, I hold the government to account. You can ask the Ontario government about the many times we have been at loggerheads. I have the ability to, one, create space that is respectful and kind with other leaders, and at the same time, hold them to account. I'm holding two spaces within me. I'm not just one, hi, I'm going to be your friend all the time. That's not me. And so that's my plan moving forward. And I know that with that heart-centered approach, together with any government, we can move the yardstick. We can create quantum leaps of change. And that's my plan. Miigwech, Kevin.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you all for your questions. Thank you, National Chief, for answering the questions and for giving your time today. Jenna, do you have anything you'd like to add before we wrap up?
So I believe Cormac McSweeney from Rogers had a question.
I believe his question was asked.
Okay. Then we're good.
Okay, thank you so much, everyone, and thank you, National Chief.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you for listening today, and thank you for supporting us with our sponsors. Please go to depictions.media for more information and click on our contact link and let us know how we can help bring your story and help bring us to a better world. This show has been produced by Depictions Media. Please contact us at depictions.media for more information.